Back at CANTO BIGHT, Finn and Rose are placed in their cell, desperately wondering how they're going to reach a codebreaker, as well as how they're going to break out of prison, only to discover that there is a competent codebreaker in the cell with them. He opens their cell door and walks out, leaving the escape option for Finn and Rose. I'm going to run through this set of scenes before talking about them. The codebreaker bumps into BB-8 as the droid takes down several guards with his coin machine gun. The film makes a point to not be violent with this machine gun, just damaging so all the guards fall over and go to sleep, or they're tied up. Either way, the point is that the guards have been taken out of the equation, so do not ask questions about them. We then see Finn and Rose have ended up in the pen for the horse-like creatures, and the film makes a point to show their wounds from the jockeys we saw them sustain earlier. Rose releases them and convinces the child labor to let them leave without incident by saying they fight for the resistance. We then cut to a truly chaotic scene where Finn and Rose ride the horse animals to freedom while crashing through many structures all over CANTO BIGHT. It bears mentioning that these animals really do seem like rip-offs of The Last Guardian, and that's unfortunate considering how recently that game was released. Then sentry helicopters chase them and say they're not going anywhere. Despite that, Finn and Rose evade them successfully by splitting off from the main group. Unfortunately, they both reach the cliff's edge and realize that they are trapped. This is where Finn says, "It was worth it though, to tear up that town, make 'em hurt." Rose responds by releasing the animal and saying, "Now it's worth it." Moments later, the codebreaker flies his ship to the cliff's edge and offers to rescue both of our heroes, supply them a transport back to the fleet, and help them break into the First Order's ship and take down the breaker in the breaker room for the tracker. Now let's rewind and break this down by character and then by plot. Rose, upon being released, goes through a grate with Finn to avoid the guards that came after the codebreaker met up with BB-8. So I guess these new guards just didn't see the codebreaker, nor were they alerted to BB-8 taking down the other 4 guards. That's fine, it's just interesting logistics, I guess. Rose then releases all of the animals in hopes to free them and comments on this being what makes the whole thing worth it whether or not they escape. This is so silly for a grown adult to say. Those creatures, because of how cute and helpless they are placed higher than human life by Rose. She doesn't care to free the slave labor and provide them a better life with the resistance, even though they are sympathetic to the cause and help them with their plan. Not to mention that, as we learn, they are force sensitive, meaning they could be a huge help once they've grown up. Though I suppose I don't know what force sensitive people even means anymore, considering this.
How Rey has the force.
Everyone has a force. Even Hux.
Is that true? I thought some people could have the force and some people... I need to watch the movies again.
So everyone has the force now. It isn't special by definition.
And when everyone's super, no one will be.
So yeah, Rose doesn't have a second thought about the child slaves, but this is even sillier due to the fact that CANTO BIGHT is a planet filled with massive over-the-top security, likely because the place makes a massive amount of money. This means that all those animals that her and Finn have released will be captured and put back to work. This is obvious, as what else would happen when that many sentries are all chasing the targets when they've been shown to have weaponry? They aren't shooting because they're trying to catch the animals, and it's only a matter of time before they do. Which is dumb in itself, by the way, as they cause more damage to the world and grief to the guests than I'm sure they're worth, but whatever. What Rose has said here is akin to a child's outlook on animal cruelty. Just free them all, let them return to their homes. It is very likely that they can't even survive in the wild, that they've been born and raised in captivity. None of this is handled with a lick of realism, and considering this series is being looked at as children's content despite the incredibly deep themes and the violence, what is it that you think this teaches children exactly? Free animals no matter what? Stop mean things from happening? If anything, this will simply give children the wrong ideas. Moving on to Finn, he is mostly along for Rose's ride, but he does comment on the destruction of the casino as a sort of revenge against the people who run the planet, the rich war profiteers. Now this is actually childlike writing again, a glossed view of the world where the bad guy loses because we broke his toys. Finn accomplished the destruction of many areas of CANTO BIGHT, scaring and injuring citizens or tourists while labeling them all as evil as he trampled through without any specific information on any of them, only to claim the revenge he apparently sought. What a great character. An easy comparison for this is the sad realization that by destroying the Death Star, Luke may have killed many innocent stormtroopers conscripted for the sole reason that they were unlucky and didn't believe in the Empire at all. Who knows? This is inevitably going to happen in order to stop this planet killer from completing its goals. Here, though, he is just rampaging through a random city on a planet under the justification that he doesn't like the people who live here. What about the good people who are here? What about the slave labor that may be serving these people as you trample through? What about characters just like you and Rose who are here to find something? It is so interesting that a character who's established as unable to stomach human suffering is so blunderously carving through a complex filled with humans causing suffering. It is almost like there is no care taken with the characters in this film. But that's ridiculous, right? The carnage is apparently justified by some of these people having profited from war. Do you understand what that means? They didn't cause the war, they simply profited from it. They aren't even strictly evil on the scale. They're just opportunists. Besides that, as a disgruntled sanitation worker for the First Order, Finn should know well and good that when something is damaged in the Starkiller base, or the Supremacy, the mess is not cleaned up by Snoke, or Hux, or Kylo Ren. It would be sanitation, engineering, plumbing, or a specific section of people that work. Perhaps a slave group. Real people like Finn clean up the messes that he is making right now, and he should know this. Not to mention that this may have no real effect on the rich, horrible people of the world because they have insurance. But what does that matter? We know they have slave labor, so they're just going to use them. Thanks to Finn, there's going to be months and months of whipping and ridicule, also that he could feel better about these evil men who rule this world. People feel like this whole sequence was a moment for Finn to grow and learn in relation to the evils in the world, while in reality it was an embarrassing cavalcade of virtues being sprayed across a disconnected and clumsily constructed plotline. Finn's new and idiotic attitude is the similar kind of attitude that many misguided activists have in our world today, freeing animals only to scare or hurt them, or ultimately return them to where they were found, or they will destroy property in the name of hurting the one who's at the top of the chain, when in reality they only hurt the workers who fix it all. This whole mess on CANTO BIGHT is the foreground to the theme of war profiteers getting richer and richer while the young, defenseless children of the world are used as free labor for the planet the rich enjoy. This is so unbelievably on the nose, it's embarrassing. Why in Star Wars would they be using child labor instead of droids when the droids would be cheaper, stronger, faster, and far more subservient? This isn't Tatooine, a distant desert planet filled with those who multiply out of poverty and engage in slavery from birth as a form of shelter and living. But at least Tatooine did have droids too. They were just low quality. This is a luxury casino planet filled with the galaxy's richest men and monsters. Why would they even bother with anything but the finest, most efficient technology? I know why. Rian Johnson wanted you to know that these were very evil people, and we should feel for the animals and the children. The heart coming before the mind.
And what a surprise! Look who's scraping up the filth! Is it a human child? I wish!
Overall, CANTO BIGHT screams of a child's view of the world and its injustices, the simplistic look at everything wrong with the world and why we should all change our behavior. If CANTO BIGHT were written correctly, or at least with some sense of logic, then the goal of the message still would have been animals, children, and the poor are all innocent and downtrodden, while the rich men cleave their way through society with ease, benefiting from the suffering of these demographics. Why, might I ask, is any of this in my Star Wars film? Many people say things like this film doesn't feel like Star Wars, and this set of scenes would be where I point to when saying something similar. What a disappointment of rushed and forced themes presented to the audience in the most ham-handed and naive way imaginable.